Greetings, everyone, and welcome again to the United Hotspot, where Lisandro Martinez is back training at Carrington. Well, it is an important update because it's highly likely that Luke Shaw will soon join him, as promised by the boss last week. Most importantly, we could be seeing both of them play a game together for at least 2 games before the end of the season. Beautiful update, isn't it? Well, that's not the hot one. The hot one is concerning Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who had an interesting meeting at Old Trafford today. I'll tell you about it in just a bit. First things first, good evening, good afternoon, good morning. How are you doing? Have you subscribed? If you haven't, guys, you're the one delaying us to get to 10K. Let's do it, guys. We can do this. Let's subscribe and, of course, share on these videos and like them as well. Thank you. Now, Sir Jim Ratcliffe was in a meeting at Old Trafford today with the staff at Manchester United, and he made certain interesting statements, and I would say decrease as the boss, because one of the interesting ones was he ordered all staff of Manchester United to return back to their desks, their offices in Manchester. Remember, since COVID, most of the modern world had embraced working from home. And quite frankly, I think it feels good. I've not really, when I was still fully employed, I did not get a chance to really work from home like that. I think I did a bit, and it was interesting. I think during COVID, for a short time, I did. But African companies wouldn't embrace that because our people need a maximum supervision. I know it. We all know that. But with this, modern, this West, they somehow can get things done, perhaps even better, without supervision, motivating themselves from home, put on a Netflix movie, and then go, send a mail and stuff, which is interesting. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe has ordered all of this stuff to come. Remember, one of the things Sir Jim wants to do is to cut down on the workforce at Manchester United to way below 1,000, because they are just about 1,200 employees, 1,000, close to 1,200 employees at Manchester United. The idea is for them to cut this because they are going into a cost cutting. United declared the money they made, the profit they made, was about 42 million pounds. They even if they reported so much money, what they have is so little. So they want to cut down on the expenses, and that will include people losing jobs. Guys, it's not a good thing for anyone to lose their job anywhere. Well, we love the club, but we hate to see it. But anyhow, that's what's happening. So Ineos made that decree, so people will be going back in their offices in Manchester. Now, the other thing that he made was a promise. Now, that's where I will dwell. He bold promise he made, saying that in a few years, this is what Sir Jim Ratcliffe himself said, that in a few years, Manchester United is going to be back to where it was. That's according to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. That in a few years, United will be back to where it was. And when you say where United was, obviously what comes to mind for a person like me is Sir Alex Ferguson and the success that the club enjoyed during his spell there. Now, whether that's easy to achieve, and it doesn't have to be easy, but even possible to achieve in this day and age where football has changed. The game has spread out from being a 2-3 horse race to now so many clubs being able to afford the same players you can afford. The financial fair play rule helping players, the smaller clubs, the have-nots, to get a chance also to sit on the same table with the haves. It's going to be very difficult for us to have Manchester United compete the way Sir Alex Ferguson put it back then, because then United only had to compete with one or two other clubs. Arsenal for a long time, for a few times Liverpool, then it drops off. Then Chelsea came a bit with Jose Mourinho, disturbed him a bit. So maybe Man City later on, but it was always a 2-3 horse race in the English Premier League and in Europe actually as well. It wasn't well, whereas there United was always there. That's the thing. Where Bayern and name them, but today game has spread a little bit. So it's an interesting promise that he made, but he seems to trust the structure he has put in place, the people he has brought in from the board, and his whole constitution of the board. He also made a very interesting, before I forget it, gave an update on Dan Ashworth, because as it seems, Sir Jim Ratcliffe himself is on top of bringing in Dan Ashworth. He's the one talking to these people. He's not sending people to represent him. So he updated the board that Dan Ashworth will be joining the club soon. So we could be surprised. We could be up for a surprise that Dan Ashworth might not take a year or two, as it was seemed to be suggested. Perhaps there is bigger progress than what we know between Man United and Newcastle. The negotiations going on, of course, with Ineos. So if that happened, then things will then start to move so fast. Then they will make the final decisions on the manager and, of course, on the players and all that, because the target is for Manchester United to be busy as early as June, because, well, we want things to be done early so that we get into a proper preseason and get back to competitive ways with a proper all the players we need, the boss, everyone knows what they have to do. The structure is well communicated, everything trimmed. Already people are losing jobs. So in terms of staff and cutting down on numbers, already Sir Jim is down to work. He's down to business. So you feel that he's in a rush to get things done, which we'll have to see if he doesn't get it wrong. But he seems to be getting the right people, and he seems to be sure of what he wants to do, which for me is very important. That's what is giving him the confidence to come out and promise the staff that Manchester United will be back to the top in just a few years, and not just in the English Premier League. He says the top of Europe. So meaning Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, all these emerging European clubs will hear about the arrival back at the top of Manchester United. Now, it's exciting news to hear, but we've got to walk the talk first. That's the first thing we need to do. Walk the talk, because we might think all these issues were the issues, but it could be things there something they have not really opened their eyes to. But I think here they have taken time to make a proper a proper audit of the club, try to find out exactly what's going on, to find out what exactly has been failing some of these great coaches like Jose Mourinho, David Moyes, Regana Solskjaer. It's probably that perhaps they have even spoken to some of them to try and know what exactly the situation was when they were there. So it's clear that there are things that they have put right. It's very possible that there are things that they have put right. And when you look at the structure and the people they have brought in, there is reason for you to believe that, well, things might change. Whether United will go back to consistently dominating, mm, might be a whole different debate, because, like I said, the game has changed. There's Newcastle with a lot of money. All there are so many. They're good. The players. There is no difference in quality when it comes to the players. The mentality of these social media players is all the same. So it's really difficult to have those players consistently performing at that topmost level. The young kids of today are different, but that does not mean it's impossible. At least United will get back to title conversations more consistently. That for me should be the most important thing. Win one, lose in a few seasons, and that's what it was. That's what it was anyway with Sir Alex Ferguson. It wasn't like Man United was sweeping titles a year in for decades consecutively, but they were dominant in every season. And even when they lost, United was still competitive, and no one would call for the head of Sir Alex Ferguson. That's where we want to be able to competitively stay to consistently stay at a level. You remember how Arsenal was with Arsene Wenger? I'm not saying that we want to take so many years without winning the Premier League like Arsenal, but they were consistently competing in the Champions League. Though for them at that time, the battles were not with so many clubs. So you would judge Arsene Wenger for not really crossing the line and winning the league more often. But I mean, he had the Sir Alex Ferguson to compete with, and the later Jose Mourinho. So it was a little difficult, but it was still within their reach. For Manchester United, we are still expected to be there in those top clubs. So Ineos is trying to do the magic. How easy or difficult is it going to be? This man in an afternoon meeting today promises that it may not be easy, but it will be done in a few years. That's the determination, man. I've got no reason not to trust him. In case you didn't know about Ineos, as I wind up, the one thing you need to know about Ineos, how Sir Jim Ratcliffe made all his money. That's making him one of, if not the richest man in the UK, was buying companies that were promising, they are struggling, he buys them cheaply, then he turns them into world beaters. That's how he made his money. So this is his game, play area. Well, it might be football, but it's still business. So he bought Manchester United, struggling. He's going to turn it into a global beater. And trust you me, that will be a huge part of his legacy if it does succeed. Let's hope it does. There's no reason to doubt. My name is Webb. This is the United Hotspot. That's a quick update from today at Manchester United. Subscribe.